I'm doing it for the show. Field of 68 till I die.
This is the Field of 68 After Dark Show, the only place that you need to be for college hoops every single night.
All right, welcome to After Dark on the Field of 68, the only place, as Rob Dostler said, to get the full breakdown each and every night from those who actually watch the games. I'm Stadium Insider Jeff Goodman. Tonight, I'm joined by former Wake Forest star Randolph, Childress, and Sports Illustrated's Kevin Sweeney. How are you, boys?
I'm good, man. Ready.
We will tell you tonight who made the biggest statement. We'll find out how many cups of coffee Kevin Willard had before Seton Hall's huge win over Xavier. And we will also dig deep into how to fix the issues at Georgetown and Memphis, and whether Patrick Ewing and Penny Hardaway are the right men to get it back at their alma maters. As always, we're glad to be joined to be on SiriusXM, ESPN Radio. Channel 84 will be on right after the Texas Tech-Oklahoma game ends. You can also watch us on both YouTube and Twitter on the Field of 68. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Bet Rivers. All right, let's get to it, boys. There were a half dozen top 25 teams in action tonight. Not like the biggest night, especially after last night that we've seen. A little bit of a letdown, I guess, but there were a ton of close games. Randolph, we'll start with you. Who made the statement of the night tonight?
My statement wasn't a ranked team, and I'm going to go with a familiar conference. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I think for a couple of reasons. I think no one expected them to be number one team in the ACC, first place this late in the year. I know it's a half a game, sole possession, but the other thing is, let's be honest. I mean, Mike Brey was coaching for his job.
Yeah.
He was coaching for his job. And so no one expected it, coaching for your job, to come out tonight. And then they got some really good wins against Kentucky. I know Louisville's down, but in the past, these are the type of games that they've lost. And I think they're going to be one of those teams. I think they may be, them in Wake Forest, maybe the second best team in the ACC. And I think they're getting closer to locking up a bid.
Well, that's a good transition for me because I'm going to go with your alma mater. I'm going to go with Wake Forest.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a huge win at NC State. NC State's not very good this year, but a road win in the ACC for a team that is, again, kind of fighting for its tournament life.
Yes.
And can ill afford. It's a bad loss if they lose it. And sometimes avoiding a bad loss is as important as getting a big win. And I think that's what they did here. And I'll tell you what, we may get to it in the afters. I'm not sure anybody did better in the portal this year than Steve Forbes and Wake Forest. I mean, Linus Williams, Williams has been awesome.
It's not close.
And the kid from Indiana State, Forbes was blowing him up to me in the offseason, Jake LaRavia. And I'm like, all right, I get it, man. I get it. But everybody does that with their transfers, right? And I know Greg Lansing well, who lost his job at Indiana State. And he was telling me how good he was too. But I'm like, ACC, we'll see what this dude can do. He's got not only of the best transfers, two of the most versatile transfers in all of college basketball. So Wake Forest, to me, makes a huge statement tonight because, again, if you win a game like this, all it does, there's going to be other teams that lose tonight that take themselves one step further away, and you're at least kind of holding firm. Sweeney, who do you got? Who is the team that you just felt good about tonight?
Kind of has to be SMU, right? I mean, we've got to give them a shout. This was a game because of how weak the AAC is. I mean, SMU has a decent resume. Their metrics are okay. You're sitting there. They needed something to top off that resume to make them a clear contender to get in that large bid of the NCAA tournament. And they got it today against Houston. And it took a late, crawl back. I mean, Houston jumped on them early, put 51 in the first half on them. They're down double digits, halfway through the second half. And you're just like, can they make this push? Because you felt like if they made the first run, they were going to go all the way with this crowd on their back and with how little depth Houston has. They kind of wear down in the game. And that's just what happened. I mean, they started to make shots. They got a couple of huge stops. And they did a pretty good job late in the game, up until 3 seconds left, fouling a three-point shooter, of executing. I thought up until then, this is a program that has really struggled to close out games. And they did a great job right until that moment. And I just think they kind of complicated everything. They tried to foul. There was not enough time to foul. They accidentally fouled Kyler Edwards. But, the basketball gods were on their sides. Free throw comes up short for Edwards, and SMU gets a huge win. I mean, this was a statement win for a team that has a point guard that can lead you in any game in March in Kendrick Davis. They've got athleticism on the wings and guys who can really make shots. They had 12 threes today. Like, you watch SMU, you say that team's just as good as a lot of the teams we talk about on the bubble every night, but they've just been out of sight, out of mind. They haven't played high-level games. So to get a kind of showcase spotlight today against Houston and pull off the win, it changes the complexion of their season.
All right. So how many of the 26 players, let's say there were 26 scholarship players, knew who George W. Bush was in the crowd watching that game? RC, how many? What do you think?
Zero. I can't give you one. I can't give you one. I can't give you one.
I'm the age of all of these players, and I feel like I definitely would recognize George W. Bush if I walked down the street and saw him. So I'm going to give at least.
Sweeney, you're a big politician, politics guy. So you're well versed over there at Northwestern. So anyway, listen, huge win for SMU. It kind of puts them. To me, they were like on the next 4 out or somewhere in that neighborhood. Now they move themselves right squarely on the bubble, and they get another shot at them. So that's the only problem in that league is you're talking there's one team that you have to beat, and SMU did it, which was huge. And that team was a Houston team they were 20-2 coming into the game, and they were ranked 2 in the net, 4 in KenPom, 4 in Sagarin. As you can tell, I'm a huge analytics guy now, Sweeney. I've turned into this huge analytics guy.
Made the turn.
Yeah, I'm quoting everybody. I'm just going to quote every analytics, KPI, BPI. I don't know what any of it means, but whatever. It sounds good. I sound smart. But listen, Houston's 2 losses came, and people will say this all the time. Okay, their only 2 losses came to Wisconsin and Alabama. So, give them credit. Well, yeah, now they're playing without their 2 best players that played in those games, Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark. So they're a completely different team. I know they were 9-0 in league play coming into this game, but I mean, come on. They played Temple. They played USF twice. Wichita State's not very good this year. Tulsa's terrible. East Carolina's terrible. UCF's not great. Cincy's not. Kenyon Martin ain't walking through the door. We know that. So their best win was Oregon, and they played Oregon early when Oregon wasn't even good. So I just feel like this Houston team, while I'm going to give Kelvin Sampson so much credit, because any team you lose your 2 top scorers, offensive players, you're usually done. You're fried. You're toast. So I'm going to give him a ton of credit, but I'm also going to say I think this team right now is fraudulent, and I think you'd want to play them, although they're tough as shit, you'd want to play them if they're like a 3 or a 4 seed in the first round of the NCAA tournament, depending on who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I also think
I couldn't agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's even less about the first round matchup and more about, can you really see this team in a Final Four, right? And for a team with their metrics,
no.
Zero chance. Right? They don't have the guard play.
Right.
They don't have the depth. I mean, you saw it in this game; it's kind of worn down. I really like the kid Jamal Shed. He had a double-double there.
It's terrific.
He's so fun. He gets downhill.
Yeah.
Is he the point guard that you're winning in March with? No, probably not. Right.
Well, he doesn't have enough around him on the wing now.
Right. And he's not a scorer.
It's like too much on him. He's got to pass. He's got to score. Josh Carlton's been awesome. To me, this is what I was waiting for him at UConn for 3 or 4 years. And now Kelvin's getting out of again. I don't want to take anything away from Kelvin. In fact, I want to give him even more props than probably he even deserves. But all I'm saying is all right, this team, the AAC is not very good this year. Let's be honest. Right, RC?
I was going to say, what's the difference between them and the ACC in that aspect? You got one team we felt like would dominate it, and SMU is kind of that Notre Dame or that Wake Forest that we were really good, couldn't afford any lips, but slip ups. But Houston is like the Duke team that everyone needs to beat, like Virginia did, to get that resume booster, because you're not going to get it. You don't get it. No one's considering the rest of the leagues any quad 1 wins or anything else. It's just losing in conference only hurts you at that point. Yeah. So you got to beat, if you're in the AAC, you got to beat Houston if you want to get in there in the tournament. And in the ACC, you got to beat Duke. That's
And the
I don't know how you
AAC
guys feel about, you know.
And the AAC is almost like ACC light. It is ACC light.
Yes, it is.
You know,
That's
like
yeah.
it's AAA
Yes.
almost to the ACC, which isn't very good. And again, like to me, this SMU team, if they can get one more, I don't know when they play Houston again, but they get them at the end of the year. If they can get one more, I think they're in. But again, you can't have any other slip ups between now and then. That's the hard part right now. And that's where it's so tough for these teams that dig themselves a hole in the non-conference that are in leagues like this. How do you make up ground? You're screwed. Like there's nothing you can do other than, again, at least splitting and maybe sweeping that team, whether it is Duke in the ACC, whether it is Houston.
The crazy thing with SMU is their season right now is defined by one weekend. November 21st, November 22nd, they lost neutral court games to Mizzou and Loyola Marymount.
Yeah,
that wrecks their resume. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? Like even if you give them one of those back, you get one of those back, it's a different discussion. But now you have two bad losses because those are bad neutral losses. Right. Those are both Q3 and I think Q4 in Loyola Marymount's case. Like again, you blew all your free passes for conference play when you're going on the road and you're doing all these things on a neutral court in November, and it sucks. I mean, yeah, I think they can probably get away without beating Houston a second time on the road and at least be in the conversation coming to conference tournament week. But you better beat Memphis in a couple of weeks when they play them at home. You know, you better not slip up against Cincinnati or Temple or any of these teams. And you probably better make it to the conference tournament final. Like the margin of error is so slim for these teams. I mean, it is almost like playing and being in, you know, it's worse even right now than being in the Mountain West or being in, you know, the WCC or the Atlantic 10, because the games hurt you more that you lose. I mean, you know, the Mountain West has 5-6 teams that are in the top 60 of KenPom.
Right.
I was going to say, I wouldn't even rate them that high. That was kind of how we were talking about with the ACC. It's like you got certain teams. I made that comparison only because you got the one team that we know for sure is in. Everyone else, like Notre Dame and Wake, are in, but they are in only if they don't slip up going down the stretch. And SMU kind of getting this win, it's like, all right, you can't slip up or you're out. Because they won't have enough games going in.
Position.
Right.
You put yourself in position now.
Right.
And for the last couple of years, there's been talk about Tim Jankovic. Like, is this going to be it for him? You know, he was the guy, remember, coach in waiting. You know, he left a head job to be the coach in waiting for Larry Brown.
Yep.
Well, that didn't work. I guess it did work out well for him because he got a
stuck
better
for a
job.
while. Yeah, he stuck for a while.
Right. He got a better paycheck and a better job in a league that really is kind of wide open right now, other than Houston. So I think, you know, can he save his job as well? You know, that's, to me, you go back to like Mike Bray, and you touched on it for a minute. He had some pressure this year. There's no better dude in the country than Mike Bray. There's nobody that's rooting for a coach more than I'm rooting, probably you too, RC, for Mike Bray to go out the right way.
Right.
Right. Like I had lunch with Jim Boeheim yesterday here in
it.
Boston. I didn't go to the game. I went to the UConn Marquette game. And the one thing kind of I think he was hinting at with me was like, I don't want to go out this way this year. I want to go out the right way. And I think we all want these guys to go out, the good guys or the elite level Hall of Fame coaches, go out the right way. And I've said this about Boeheim in the past over the last few weeks, is like, I watched Lute Olson at Arizona. I went to Arizona, go out because health dictated when he went out. You don't want that for Boeheim, number one. Number two, you don't want him going out in a year like this where they're fairly irrelevant right now. Maybe they can make a run. They've started shooting it better. They've won, I think, 4 in a row. But ultimately, you want these guys like Mike Bray and Jim Boeheim to go out on their own terms winning.
If they can, though, I think that's the biggest difference. I mean, Mike Bray said it himself. If Wesley doesn't come there, he isn't a homegrown kid. It's over, right? This is his word verbatim, and so he gets it. Fortunate for him, I'm happy for him. He's a great guy, a heck of a coach. And like what you said with Boeheim, they got 4 in a row. Will it be enough? Who knows? But who's coming in there to help turn this around? or help get him back to wherever
he's
he
got a
once
big
was.
time. He's got a class coming in that he really likes, Boeheim. Now, again, his kids are probably both going to be gone.
Yes.
So it's going to flip completely. I mean, Jesse Edwards has been better. Certainly you got Joe Girard back. So you got a couple veterans, but ultimately it's going to be a new, young, more athletic, better defensive team for Jim Boeheim. That's at least what he's thinking about. Mike Bray, listen, he's got a chance right now. He's put himself in the equation, like you said, to go out with an NCAA tournament bid when the last few years, I think everybody expected they would just be there. Notre Dame every year, they'd be older. Pat Connaughton, Bonzie Colson, whoever it was, he'd have some dudes. And he went through some lean years, when they were older, but they just weren't good enough. And now the good thing is, I think Notre Dame's put themselves in a position. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but trust me, don't go anywhere because Kevin Willard will join us next, and he'll tell you which Seton Hall alum never went to class. Next on the Field of 68's After Dark.
Clear, 90 seconds.
All right. We got some questions, right? Here we go. First question, boys, from Donnie Kuzma. Sweeney, it's a resume question, so I'm going to throw it at you.
Okay.
I think you're more apt to answer this than RC. Better resume, Rutgers or Indiana?
If you're looking at quality wins, it's Rutgers. But Indiana doesn't have the bad ones that Rutgers has. And I think that combined with the metrics, which are pretty ugly for Rutgers right now, they're still in the 90s coming into today.
Yeah.
I would lean Indiana. I think the quadrant one wins are going to start to be a conversation for Rutgers, especially with what they have down the stretch. They have a tough schedule. If they win 3 more, you're going to look up and say, wow, Rutgers has 7 quadrant one wins. How are they not in the tournament? Well, because they lost to, I think, Lafayette and UMass and
bad ones.
are in like the 80s and Ken Palm. That's why.
It's Indiana. Indiana's got the better overall resume. They're in the tournament right now.
Yeah.
Rutgers on the outside looking in. All right, from Lester Lee, and we're going to pick up on this after the break a little bit too. Is Oklahoma RC a lock to make the tournament?
They're not a lock, but I think winning today puts them
30.
in. But they're not a lock. I think they got to continue to play themselves into it.
Yeah, I would agree. Whole court at home. If they can do that, they'll be fine the rest of the way. They'll get in because, again, some other teams will lose, and there's no bad losses right now in that league. That's the benefit.
10 seconds.
All right, last 10 seconds. All right, we're gonna wait. We'll come back and we'll get to your questions. Make sure, again, you hit us in the YouTube chat with any of your questions. All right, welcome back to the Field of 68's After Dark. I'm Jeff Goodman of Stadium, joined by Randolph Childress, former Wake star, Sports Illustrated's Kevin Sweeney. We're also joined on SiriusXM, ESPN Radio Channel 84, and you can follow us on both YouTube and Twitter on the Field of 68. All right, kind of a little bit of a surprising game just now, guys. Ended. The Oklahoma Sooners get a win over a Texas Tech team that I finally put in my top 10, and now they lose. Now, listen, this is a team that's not overwhelming. They do it with defense. They do it with toughness. But again, these road games in the Big 12, there's not a lot of easy ones at this point. At Oklahoma, in Norman, against a good Oklahoma team, not a great team. But are you surprised, Kevin, that this one ended up this way?
I'm not, because I think Oklahoma felt the desperation of this moment, right? You're coming in, you've lost 6 of your last 7 ball games, or 7 of 8, excuse me, including the Auburn game, right? You're 3-7, you're feeling the heat on the bubble. They needed this game, and I thought the crowd was in it for them early. Gibson hit some huge shots. He, I think, was 8 for 11 from 3 in this game. I mean, that's tremendous. I think Porter Moser's always been a big game coach. I think if you think back, obviously the NCAA tournament runs, but it's time with Chicago. Like when they've needed to game plan, they've been able to put together some really good stuff. And I thought they came out really well prepared on the defensive side of the ball today. Hold Texas Tech to 55 points. Bring back some of the questions I have about Texas Tech. Are they going to be able to score enough in March to really go deep?
Yeah.
But this was a game that Oklahoma needed. I didn't necessarily love the matchup, but I just kind of felt like with the desperation factor, the home court factor, and with the Porter Moser factor, they were going to find a way, and did it tonight.
Things about to get really real for Texas Tech now. I mean, coming out of this now, they got it tough. They got Oklahoma, they got Baylor coming up, and then they got Texas coming up. So we're about to find out. I mean, they lost tonight, and you're right that Oklahoma had to have it. They played like the more desperate team that needed to win. But for Texas Tech, you gotta figure this out, because now you got Baylor and Texas coming in, and you're looking at that part. You were hoping to get tonight and then splitting those games. Now you got to go at those games like, hey, we got to take care of Baylor next, and that's not going to be an easy one.
Yeah, they need a healthy Terrence Shannon here. I mean, that's really what they need. Try to kind of reintegrate them. I feel like they haven't known whether they're going to have them, how they're going to have them. So I think that's been difficult for Mark Adams to try to game plan for as much as anything. But, listen, when you go 2 for 17 from 3, RC, tough to win any game. Yeah. Tough to win any game. Now, their defense was the thing. They didn't guard Emoja Gibson tonight. He went for 30. They did a good job against Tanner Groves down low. But what they did, they let Gibson loose. And that was, to me, when he goes for 30, you can't allow that. Another team that had a guard get loose a little bit tonight was Seton Hall. And Jared Rhoden, without their closer, Bryce Aiken, Rhoden went for 25 tonight. Seton Hall had 17 offensive rebounds. And that's kind of how this Seton Hall team needs to do it, especially against Xavier. Now, a big factor in this was Fremantle fouled out on a tee. He fouled out early, and you lose some of your interior toughness without Fremantle. He's, to me, the tough. Him and Scruggs make Xavier what they are. But this was not only a big win, and I'll start with you, RC, a big win for Seton Hall, because of everything they've gone through this year. And we'll talk to Kevin Willard about it in a few minutes. But to me, again, you got to give yourself some momentum coming down the stretch right now if you're Seton Hall.
We've been relying on saying, hey, when this team gets Bryce Aiken back, like, they're going to take a step. They're going to make a run. And for whatever reason, he just hadn't been able to get back. Yeah. Rhoden just put him on his back tonight. I mean, he carried him tonight. But I thought that foul in that situation, you can't even call it a foul with Fremantle going out with 13:39 or almost 14 minutes in the second half.
I didn't like it.
I understood it, didn't like it.
He stood over him, right?
Stood over him, and I get you maybe, but then, for him to get 2 fouls in that, you don't want to lose a player with in that type of situation, and it hurt him. Let's be honest. It would be, anybody losing a player like that for that stretch of game, for the rest of the game, and lose them for fouling out that was tough. But then again, in record-wise, it doesn't matter. Seton Hall is not going to apologize for it. And fortunate for them, they got the win. But to go far, they're going to need Bryce back now,
Sweeney. Yep. They're both 6-6. I think they're tied for 6th in the league right now. The Big East, to me, you're probably looking at 6 or 7 teams, depending on Creighton, whether Creighton can get in. How worried are you about X? Because to me, Travis Steele, this is year 4 for him. He's got an older team. Nobody expected Paul Scruggs to come back for his super senior year. He did. To me, this team shouldn't be like floundering now. They should be, to me, like a clear-cut top 15 team. They got everything you need. They got shooters. They got 2 bigs. I almost wonder whether sometimes he tries to play those 2 bigs together too much, Nunji and Fremantle.
Yeah, their lineups don't have a lot of cohesion right now. Just kind of feels like I think because they got Nunji going so early in the season with Fremantle out, now they get Fremantle back in. They don't know how to work it out. Hunter was starting early in the year. He's now in a much reduced role. I think he only played 6 minutes today. They have a lot to figure out. They have not been good really for about a month now. I mean, I was at the game they played at DePaul. They were really unimpressive in that game about 3-4 weeks ago. They lost to DePaul on their home court this past weekend. They barely got by Butler at home last week. It's not pretty right now for Xavier. And I think part of it to me is Scruggs. Like, I've never thought he's elevated as a guy who makes guys better, who takes over games when it matters. I thought he was good today, but there's something missing. And given the late season swoons we've seen in the past from these Travis Steele teams, I mean, last year, I think we gave everybody a pass because of COVID, and they had some severe COVID issues that really didn't allow them to play or build a rhythm. But I mean, look, at some point, they have not been a good basketball team for a month, and they better figure it out. They've got a tough stretch coming up. 3 of their next 4 against really good teams, UConn, 2 of those, and then Providence. If Seton Hall again after that. So, St. John's the only kind of light night, and that's not an easy night, right? I mean, St. John's is not a great team, but that's not an easy 40 minutes to play. So, they've got some stuff to figure out. They're gonna go to the NCAA tournament, but they better clean some stuff up.
Well, the question is, are they going to go to the tournament and be that team that everybody wants to play? Because you've lost your swagger, you've lost your confidence, you barely got in. Maybe you're a first 4. I mean, listen, crazier things that have happened at this point. I wouldn't want to play them, but again, I was so high on them earlier, RC, and now I don't want to say I've given up on them, but I have no confidence in Xavier anymore. None.
They're not playing their best basketball right now, but hell, coming into the night, they still were the 25th ranked team in the country coming into this game, right? So they're a victim of our expectations because what we think they should be, and they're kind of just showing us who they are. I don't think they're the team that we've seen the last month or the last 2 to 3 weeks, but what's going to happen? Will Bryce make it back before the end of the year? Even if he's just a rotational piece, will he come back and help them for Seton Hall? If Bryce Aiken comes back, that's the key to them. They're not going anywhere deep without him. Right, wrong, or indifferent. If he doesn't get back and get playing in that lineup, they're just not going to be that team that go as far as we all think their talent should have let them be.
All right. Well, listen, we'll get to Seton Hall head coach Kevin Willard, fresh off the huge win against Xavier, who joins us now on the Field of 68's After Dark. All right, now pleased to be joined by Seton Hall head coach Kevin Willard. And listen, if you had any hair left on your head, you probably would have lost it after the final 30 seconds. It seemed like an eternity. I don't know what it was like for you, but it was kind of painful at the end there.
Yeah, give Xavier credit, Jeff. I mean, we got up 5, we got up 6, and Scruggs was phenomenal. He attacked the rim. And we missed 3 out of 5 free throws that gave them a chance to get back. And they battled, man. But I was proud of my kids. They really battled hard, and just a good old Big East battle, to be honest with you.
How important was that win, Kevin? I mean, when I last saw you, you're coming off a 17-day pause at the end of December. You're now 6-6 since then, but it's been kind of up and down. How big was this win tonight?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, to get back to 500 was huge because, we talked in Providence. I said, we're going to play at Providence and Villanova home with 7 guys coming off a 17-day pause. I mean, we were giving the first 2 games away, technically. We played without Ike and without Tyrese Samuels against 2 of the most physical teams. So to fight back and not have Bryce Aiken for the last 6 games, just shows you, where we are and how good of a team we really are.
How about your defense? I mean, obviously in January, there were times where you didn't defend at the level you did. And obviously I think part of that was no Ike and no Samuel, but it feels like you guys have turned the corner on that side of the ball, particularly the last few games.
Yeah, Kev. I mean, I think the biggest thing for us, the first 2 weeks of January, we were just trying to, piecemeal a roster together, put guys out there. And then I think, once we got Ike back and Tyrese back into a good rhythm, I think our defense was able to be a little bit more aggressive. Ike is one of the best shot blockers in the country. And Tyrese Samuel's now giving us huge offensive minutes. So to get our full roster back and to have time to practice has been huge.
So I know you follow me on Twitter on your burner account. Okay. I know you do. I don't need you to admit it, but I know you do. So if you do, I'm not the biggest analytics guy, but I try to check out all of them, right? I'm a huge KPI guy now. Huge. They've got like Providence 3, Wisconsin 4. Some of the other ones have like Providence down at 42. I don't quite get it. What is your metric of choice now, Kevin?
Man, that's a good question. Jeff, I'll be honest with you. I'm not huge on all the metrics. Now, I do use KempBomb a lot. I think I heard Sean Miller saying that he used to wake up in the middle of the night and You know, no offense. If I'm waking up in the middle of the night, I'm turning on the TV.
You're not checking Ken Palm? Come on.
There's no way I'm checking Ken Palm at 2 a.m. But I use Ken Palm because I think there's a lot of stuff about the offensive and defensive stuff in conference was huge. But I'm more of an old school. You know, I learned from Jim O'Brien way back in the day. You know, watch a lot of film and break it down and kind of, you know, use your eyes in the old school basketball way of breaking down defense.
I'm going to tell you, just so you can figure out which one you like right now. They're all close. KPI, you're 36. The net, you're 35. Sagarin, you're 27. Ken Palm, you're 36. I'm sorry. KPI, you're 37. BPI, Kevin, you're 31. So right now, you are a huge BPI guy.
And I like Sagarin. Sagarin at 27. I love them too. No,
That's
I mean, you know, Jeff, I've been, you know, we played a really tough non-conference schedule. I mean, we played Texas, Rutgers, Ohio State, Cal, and somebody else. And we were 9-1. You know, my job is to remind everybody that, you know, we were a really good team and we had a really bad break with COVID. And I like the fact that we're getting back to where we were pre-COVID and our guys are in a good rhythm. And I think we're playing really good basketball.
Obviously, you know, Jared Rhoden's been your guys' top scorer, but it felt like Bryce Aiken's really been your finisher in a lot of big games. And with him out, it felt like Rhoden had to step up today. What did you see from him? And what did you see the last few games from him trying to help you guys close out wins?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Kevin, is Jared's back. I think COVID kind of took him a little bit out of a rhythm, and it took us out of an offensive rhythm where the shots he was getting in December and November, we couldn't get those shots for him. And he's worked really hard over the last really 3 weeks to try to just simplify his game and get his game back to where it was in December. And, you know, he's starting to round into that all Big East performer because I think he's just gotten back into a really good rhythm.
Hey, Sweeney, take a guess, the over-under on how many cups of coffee Willard averages per day.
Oh, man. 3.5.
Oh, tell him, Kevin.
That's 3.5 before 6 a.m. I've actually, you know, be honest with you, Jeff, I've tried to cut it down a little bit. I'm probably like 7 or 8. I love coffee. I think you drink your brand.
No, here's what I got for you tonight. Look.
Fanta.
In honor of the greatest Seton Hall alum. Has he actually gotten his degree? I want to know that.
So I think it's one reason he hasn't got more games on Fox. I've been trying to. I don't think he ever did. He never went to class. And I'm not Jeff. I'm not BSing with you. That kid would stay up all night outside the gym, and he would do his spot ups, and he would practice. You shouldn't be drinking soda though. It's one of the worst things for you. But he is one of the best kids in the world.
Awesome. Well, listen. Congrats on the win. Go have some wine. No more coffee tonight. You're cut off.
I am cut off. I appreciate it, Jeff. Good to talk to you, my man.
Congrats, my man.
90 seconds.
All right. Let's get back to some questions, boys. And good interview by Willard, who's always entertaining. From S. Ellison, either one of you on this one. If Purdue wins out this week, can they jump Gonzaga as the number 1 team in the country? Sweeney, what do you think?
I don't think that the way that the voters operate, they will jump Gonzaga unless Gonzaga loses the same areas, obviously. So yeah. I don't think so. I mean, yes. I mean, especially because these 2 wins wouldn't matter, right? Like beating Michigan on the road and beating Maryland at home. Like
they're not good enough ones.
Like if they beat 2 top 15 more teams, yeah, sure. But no.
Right. No, I agree. You're entrenched if you're Gonzaga unless you lose the rest of the way. From Jacob Tobman. RC, does Duke bounce back tomorrow against Clemson?
Yes. I think they'll come back. Clemson will be tough. They'll defend them, but I think Virginia style, having a quick turnaround, that was 30. A definite difficult game for them. Quick turnaround, they trapped the post, They completely took Paulo Bencur out of the game by trapping him, and it's hard to dribble drive against their pack line.
How much was that Case fault before we get to break? We got about 10 seconds. How much of that was Case fault for not getting Paulo the ball?
Yeah, I mean
10.
Yeah, you got to get him.
I mean, you hate to blame it on a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah,
but it is somewhat up to Coach K of like, hey, this can't happen. Right. Get him the damn ball.
Oh, no matter what.
Yep. No doubt. All right, welcome back to After Dark on the Field of 68. I'm Jeff Goodman, joined by former Wake star Randolph Childress and Sports Illustrated's Kevin Sweeney. Make sure you subscribe to the Field of 68 on YouTube. We are also live on Twitter and on Sirius XM radio every night. All right, so today, guys, I know, Randolph, you said you haven't read it yet, but you're going to read it first thing tomorrow morning.
I am. I will. I
wrote a lengthy, in-depth piece on Stadium on former NBA players who have been in college as head coaches. And honestly, how underwhelming it was. I gave each of them a grade. There are about 25 current guys. I highlighted about 25 former guys. Obviously, two of the current guys who were tabbed to restore glory to their alma maters, both were in action today. Memphis's Penny Hardaway, they won. They got Tulane. And Georgetown's Patrick Ewing, they did not fare quite as well. Georgetown was right there. They were up at halftime, I think, a point at DePaul. And then the Blue Demons, the Fighting Tony Stubblefields, went on a 26-0 run. So now Georgetown is 0-11 in the Big East. They made the tournament last season with a little bit of luck, let's face it. And I think it's time, RC, to admit that the end of the Patrick Ewing era, like, obviously, I grew up watching Patrick, right? Like, I'm a Big East guy. I grew up watching him, loving him, all of it. But this isn't working. This is not working.
Jeff, it's hard for me to argue that. It's hard for me growing up in DC,
yep,
being recruited by Big John, having Big John sit in my house. Just knowing what Georgetown represents to so many people. But you got to admit, I don't know how you run this back. I mean, and I don't like saying it for a ton of reasons. I'm cheering for Pat, but
well, you've said, listen, there's nothing wrong with saying for black head coaches, which there haven't been a ton over the last however many years in college basketball.
Yeah.
Like, you're rooting, and we all are, for success, for Patrick Ewing, for Penny Hardaway, for some of these guys. But when you are 0-11 in the Big East, in a job that I still say, and I get pushback in this, is a top 20, 25 job in the country. It is.
I don't know if I agree with that. And I'll say this again. The reason I said is we're going. Sometimes you hold on because we're old enough to hold on to what Georgetown was.
Yes,
and that's what it is. Like in our mind, knowing what Georgetown is, it's just it is among the best jobs ever. You think a great city is in DC, but when you start thinking about all the other little things, like what college town is going to fill up an NBA arena? What type of crowd and everything you're going to get? It's a lot of negatives. To being a part of Georgetown. So even if you go there for work, like, hell, you got to make $500,000 as an assistant to live. Like, you go to Georgetown,
true.
You go way out PG County. That hike getting to Georgetown, good luck with that. Good luck.
What I will say to push back, recruiting base is immense. There's so much talent in that area. The practice facility is insane. It might be as good a practice facility as there is anywhere around the country. Right. There is tradition. There is history, especially with big men. Now, I know when the job was open last time, I talked to a lot of coaches that I thought would be in the mix. They were scared to go there, RC, because of Big John.
Yes.
They were scared. He's intimidating. The word is obviously at that time. And again, the late Big John Thompson was one of the greatest coaches ever. And he was intimidating.
Yes, he was.
They were scared to go there because you want to be able to do what you want to be able to do as a head coach. And I think
let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
different than what we say about Boeheim, no matter what we say about Bray.
Yep.
Big John was not still coaching, but he still ran Georgetown.
he ran it. He
Still
ran it.
Still ran it.
Yes.
Still ran it. So you had to go.
He
The
picked
interesting
Patrick.
thing about he picked Patrick. So now it's. I said this the other day, and I want to get your idea while we're talking about this. We grew up in that time where he made this program like Boeheim. We think of these programs, so they're just a big part of history. I don't know if this will happen anymore. And at some point, with some of these schools, we're going to run out of like who follows Boeheim. And now this is it. This is the last Georgetown guy.
Yeah.
Now what happens? Where do you go now?
I hear you. I hear you on all of it. I still go back to recruiting base, resources, practice facility, tradition, big men. It's got most everything. There's still some coaches when you talk to in the Big East that will say, if they had the choice of taking one job in the Big East, they would take Georgetown over Villanova.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that. But I think some of that, the problem you're going to have now is if you come in there after Pat and it's not, the hire is not loved by the John Thompson, let's just say regime or people. I don't like regime because it's not, I don't want to make it sound like it's a negative thing, but, and none of those guys buy into the hire. Now what? You taking over a job expecting all this AI. I mean, Lonzo, Mutom. I mean, the list is ridiculous. This is as great as any list we can find. But this generation doesn't know anything about those guys. They don't really know what Georgetown stands for and what it means to us, what we know it has been. And I mean, what do they do?
Sweeney knows Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo and Patrick Ewing and the big men. Like,
I know the history, but I don't associate any of those like my first brain with Georgetown.
You showed it with the league,
Ewing,
right? Like you go with the league.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I'll ask you this, Jeff. How much of a gap do you think there is between the Maryland job and the Georgetown job if they both open in the same cycle?
Well, I talked to one coach today about that, and a candidate I thought could be in the mix for either or both. And I said, which job would you take? And he said Georgetown without hesitation, without any hesitation. But I think you can go with either one.
Right.
I honestly think it depends on probably what league you want to coach in. At least Georgetown's got a basketball only league. I think Maryland, you're kind of out of place there in the Big Ten. Here's what I'll say. The next question, and I think it's a more pressing one right now. How do you fire Patrick Ewing? How do you, if you're Lee Reed, the AD, what do you do, RC? How do you handle this if you're Lee Reed? I got an idea.
The best thing he can do is hope Pat walks in his office at the end of the year and just say, hey, it's not working, and I'm going to go back to the NBA. That's the best thing that can happen. If Pat decide, if not, then I think Pat's going to make a decision. And I was having this conversation with some friends of mine, and the only thing I can think they do, and I hate saying this again because I don't want to speak on anybody's job, but something has to change. Like they're going to say, you got to completely change things. Your whole staff, whole staff has to go, and we're going to get involved in helping you with the staff. And I hate saying that because I know that's like I'm calling for people's jobs, and I know how hard this is. I know how hard that industry is, and it's hard as hell. But I also understand how the other side of it works, and from the business aspect of it, and they're not going to roll this back. And we talked about Penny, and the difference is we can say what we want. Penny got talent. Now, whether it's an issue about it, you can't tell me anybody swapping this Georgetown roster out. You probably going to take Muhammad, and that's it. Like the rest of this, no disrespect, you're not taking all this talent. This isn't a roster.
Muhammad wouldn't play 15 minutes a game in Memphis. Like compared to the guys,
no, exactly. And he's their most talented player, right? And so
they're different.
So we talk about there are different reasons for why these programs aren't successful. So we would all take the talent and say we can just figure out the other stuff. But 0-12, and we don't even know when they're going to get a next win. I don't think you need to fire them, I don't think you should. I'm a big fan of his, but I do think something has to change. And I'll stand by what I said.
I also think, though, I just want to say time's of the essence, right? Like, they need to know, especially if you're going to be in the market for a head coach. Maryland's already doing due diligence, right? They're going to be ready to pounce. And if you're into the market for the same guys, and you're going to be in the market for similar candidates in certain cases because they have guys who have DMV ties, whatever, you better be ready to know what you're going to do. Whether it's we're gonna fire him, he's going to walk away on his own accord, we're going to make him shake up his staff. You got to be ready to pounce as soon as the season ends and have a plan, because that, combined with the portal and how much they're going to have to be able to do work and get kids in, because like we said, there's not a lot here. I mean, whatever they're going to decide to do, it's got to be.
Sweeney, the other thing I'll say is, though, you got to be really careful. Like, this is as difficult of a situation, as delicate of a situation as there is of any job right now in college athletics, because the perception is this is Chocolate City. Georgetown is supposed to have a black head coach.
That's right.
So I don't care who you go get. You go get a white coach and put him at Georgetown right now. I promise you, people are going to be looking at it like,
remember Craig Esherick?
Yes. It's not supposed to be that way, but that is the perception of Georgetown. Let's just call it what it is. I don't know if there's another job in the country that's not that way, but in the
former players will be pissed.
The Power 5 conferences in that job. This is as difficult of a situation. That's why I don't believe they can do it no matter what. I don't care if Pat doesn't win another game this year. That AD and walking down that hallway telling Patrick Ewing he's gone, because whoever he hires, all that history, all those people are walking out of that door. And then what? Unless you're prepared to start this program over, and I mean from scratch, that's what it's going to take for you. Like, this is a hard decision.
Well, I think what you got to do, again, you got to have kind of a come to Jesus meeting. If you're Lee Reeb with Patrick Ewing, bring him in.
Yes.
Do you think, number one is, do you want to keep doing it? Number two is, do you think you can turn it? Really think you can turn it?
Yes.
Number three is, all right, if that's the case, we got to make some changes. All right, what are your changes going to be on staff? I love Louis Orr. Louis Orr should be a special assistant to the head coach, just like Jeff Lebo should be at North Carolina. Those dudes you need to be recruiters these days. If I'm a head coach, I'm hiring some young dudes that can go out there and connect with these kids that are younger, that are going to be able to recruit. I love Louis Orr, but that's not what he is anymore. That's what he was 20, 25 years ago. So that's where I'd start. To me, again, the Penny Hardaway, they win tonight. They're getting in talent. They can turn it. They can turn this thing a lot easier than Patrick Ewing. But honestly, if you look at the story I wrote, you will be amazed. And I'm going to give you this before we go to break here in a minute. You're not going to get this answer. Sweeney's already read the story, so he knows the answer to this.
He cheated.
Now, again, minimum 200 games played in the NBA in their careers. So Tony Bennett doesn't qualify for the current guys. I didn't give one A- or A out to all the formers or currents. The highest former, I gave a B+. You want to guess who it was, RC?
I couldn't guess. I couldn't even begin.
We gave 2 B+.
I did. I gave 2. One's
obvious, right? It's Juwan Howard.
Juwan Howard to a current. A current.
Right.
The former was Al Skinner.
Wow.
Did you know he played over 300 games in the NBA?
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
I would have never. And I was just talking about him because the current staff, he had just spoken with Earl Grant and that staff about how he was successful at BC, and they were picking his brain about how to get that culture back up there that he had created. And he was a heck of a coach, obviously, and he did some great things. So
he did
I would have
some
never
great
guessed
things at a really, really difficult place.
Yes.
But amazing of all these guys. And there were different reasons, and I went through all of them. You know, some of it was some guys, and I talked to Bobby Hurley just the other day about this. He said, I had 2 years an assistant coach at Wagner, 1 at URI under my brother before I got a head coach, and I got it at Buffalo. Damon Stoudemire told me ego is a huge thing for former NBA players, that they got to put that ego aside and make it about the players and not themselves. Staff, Fred Hoiberg said, was the most important thing. And that's where I think, you know, Ewing, Stackhouse might have gone in the wrong direction, especially Stackhouse, where Hoiberg inherited TJ Otzelberger on his first staff, hired Bobby Lutz, who had been a longtime former NBA college head coach at Charlotte with some success. So, different reasons, but I think we agree that this Patrick Ewing situation is really difficult for Georgetown to navigate. But ultimately, I don't know how it turns and we get Georgetown back to what it was. I don't even care what it was. Just get to the tournament 3 out of every 4 years at this point. That's what Georgetown should be. And 0-11 in the Big East is not what anybody thought Hoya Paranoia was going to turn into right now under Patrick Ewing, the head coach.
It's not a better job in the Big East, right? I think it's fair to say it's the best job in the Big East. I mean, is there a better job? I mean, Villanova people, the problem people have is they tend to look at success or lack of success recent. So people are trying to tell me, Providence fans, Providence is a better job than Georgetown. There's no way in hell that's the case. No chance. But they think because Ed Cooley's done a better job than Patrick Ewing, it's a better job. There's a big, big difference. All right. Yes.
When we come back, Field of 68 After Dark, we are going to play a game called Fraud or For Real, in which Sweeney is going to go out on a limb here and tell me whether Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans are frauds or not. So stick with us after the break.
Clear. 90 seconds.
All right.
Goodman's elite with the teases.
I don't know about that. But all right, what do we got for some questions in the chat here? Who do you think Georgetown would target for potential for a head coach?
Again, I don't see how they move past them. Yeah, I mean, because I can't see it. I just don't see how they make that. I think the first thing would be clean house, change your staff, or something of that nature. I just don't see Pat. I think they'll give him a chance.
Is giving him is a new staff to a 2-year deal, right? I mean, a new staff's not going to fix this for next year. They don't have players,
but it could
go to the portal.
Because of the portal, it could be.
Right, but even with the portal, I mean, they'd have to get. I mean, they would need Alondas Williams and Jake LaRavia to fix this. I mean,
but at least you would know if it trends in that direction.
Right. That's
it
fair.
Says, okay, this is
one more year.
I like where we're going. Yes,
right, Pat. Here's the deal. We're going to give you one more year if you want it. You got to change your staff, 30. And let's see if we make real progress or not. And if you're at the bottom of the Big East again next year, then all right, we'll all agree to do this again and go our separate ways. I think that's what you need to do here. Yeah. You need to give him kind of that year ahead of time, right, to try to kind of figure it out at this point. I would say the guy I would go after is Ed Cooley. He's the guy I would go after. I don't think you can get him. I don't think he leaves his hometown of Providence. But that's the guy I would try to get.
I don't think he'd leave because it's in the same conference. I think Maryland has a better chance to get him.
Yep. All right, welcome back to the Field of 68's After Dark. I am Stadium's Jeff Goodman, joined by former Wake star Randolph Childress and Sports Illustrated's Kevin Sweeney. And that was an interesting conversation. Patrick Ewing, should he stay or should he go at Georgetown, and how complicated it is. We wanted to get to Penny Hardaway. We never even quite got there. We'll do that next time, guys, because I think we could spend a whole segment on the Penny situation and some of these other guys that are struggling. Fred Hoiberg 2.0. Did they get their first Big Ten win tonight, Sweeney?
Yes, they did.
They hung on. Big win for Hoiberg 2.0 and his $18.5 million buyout if they choose to move on from him without cause. All right, we're going to play a game of Fraud or For Real now, and I can't wait to get to Michigan State, but we're gonna build up to that one and see what Sweeney says. We're going to start within the ACC, so we got to start with our ACC guy, and that is Randolph Childress. All right, Duke, they are 19-4. They are second place in the ACC, Randolph, which makes it where the streak could extend. The last time they have won an ACC regular season title was, I don't even know if Sweeney was born. It was 2010.
Rude.
I'm kidding.
Not judging by his
diapers. But
rude.
They're coming off a loss to Virginia, one in which nobody expected. They were kind of out toughed. Paulo didn't take a shot really the whole second half. Are they a fraud as a national title contender, or are they still for real?
They're for real. I don't think that. I think when you watch the game, the only thing that surprised me was, I mean, Virginia played great, and they have begun to play really good basketball. They're starting to score. We know they're going to defend. They always trap the post. I don't think they had seen that all year, and they were determined every time Ben Carroll touched the ball, they're going to trap him. They were getting the ball out of his hands. He would screen, get the switches, but they were trapping him. He did the right thing, and the thing I was surprised about the most was how they went at those guys in the post defensively, like Jaden Gardner and those guys for buckets. And I was really impressed with Gardner and Cafaro and Shedrick. Those guys went at those guys in the post and got them in foul trouble and scored. And I didn't see that. That was the biggest surprise to me.
All right, Sweeney, you're up next. The Pac-12's second place team, which I don't think anybody thought we'd be saying at this point in the season. I thought the Bruins would be running away with this thing because nobody thought Arizona was that good. UCLA is 9-3 in the Pac-12. They were swept out in the desert by Arizona. No surprise. Well, a little bit of a surprise, but it's McHale. And I went to Arizona, so I know how hard it is to win at McHale. But they also lost at Arizona State. Is UCLA a legitimate national title contender, Sweeney?
I think they're a tier below, that top 6, 7, 8 teams we've kind of talked about all year. I just don't necessarily know that they have the top end elite dudes. I think they work too hard to get good shots a lot of times, and their defense has been better lately. But I just don't think they do anything at elite enough level to really be a national title team.
Yeah, I kind of agree at this point. And I kind of knew that going into the year, even after watching them beat Villanova at Poly. I was there and I'm talking to the players afterwards. I'm like, you guys are closer to a Final Four contender than I thought, but I'm still not completely bought in. I still kind of remember that first four. It's still in my mind that that's what you were most of last season. So I'm kind of with you. All right, Illinois. 17-6, they're tied for first right now in the three-way tie in the Big Ten. Kofi's been a monster. Curbelo has not been. Curbelo's been tough to figure out right now. RC, national title contender?
Yes, I still like them.
I do too. I think they have all the pieces. I think they've got veterans. I think they've got good chemistry. I was there a couple of weeks ago with Sweeney, and man, that was an impressive win over the Michigan State Spartans, who came into Champaign, and there's something about them missing. I don't know if it's a star. I don't know if it's point guard play. I don't know what it is. They're fourth in the Big Ten, and I think they were picked in the preseason like seventh in the Big Ten. So my question to you, not whether they're national title contenders, because they're not. But are they, quickly in one word, are they Sweet 16 contenders?
They're contenders, but I wouldn't bet on them to be there. So
all right, there you have it. Thanks for joining us after dark. Goodman, RC, Sweeney, we're out.
Clear.
Awesome.
Hey, we needed to talk about Georgetown though, because we at least spoke on Memphis before.
Yeah, for a long time.
But Georgetown needed to be kind of, let's put that out there.
And that was, I think we framed it in a way that hasn't gotten a lot of talk. So they suck. Oh, can you fire Pat? I thought we gave it some different angles. So.
I'm with you. And we could talk probably for another half an hour on that situation. And again, what I don't think people understand is how complicated it is.
Yes.
This isn't moving on from, I'm trying to think of another guy right now who's at their who else is at their alma mater right now? That's like, this guy is an institution at Georgetown.
He is the like it started with him.
Yes.
Like it's Big
There's
John
no Georgetown
program.
without him.
Yes, Georgetown isn't Georgetown without Patrick Ewing, and he's earned. And honestly, just like we say about, and I should have said this even, he's earned the right because he started that program. He started it, and I think that he's earned the right because he started it to say, hey, all right, look, I need to figure this out. This isn't working. Let me try something different. Like you owe him that because there is no Georgetown basketball without Patrick Ewing.
All right, welcome to the Field of 68 afters. The good news, guys, and right now I think Bobby Doster is celebrating because we hit 10,000 subscribers today on YouTube. So right now I picture Rob with like one of those party hats on, balloons, probably woke up his kids because he's just, that type of dad that doesn't understand, let the sleeping kids lie. And he's probably running around screaming, whatever. But congrats, Rob. 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Hell of a job, what you built with the whole Field of 68 and Field of 12. All right, what's more important than peace of mind, guys? Nothing. And that's what NordVPN is here for, to give you peace of mind while you are online. And with all the threats that you face today on the internet, it's more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN you can get. NordVPN, which, believe it or not, guys, I used when I was in Lithuania, swear to God, is the world's best VPN service, offering the fastest connectivity, most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all of your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection either, and plans start at under $4 a month. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/believe or use the code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan, plus one additional month for free. It's also risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Want to make some money? How about you invest it in an exciting asset that's outpaced the S&P 500 by 164% for 25 years? I'm talking about art. Masterworks is the new investing app that lets you invest in blue chip paintings from icons like Picasso, Monet, and Warhol without needing millions. Over 300,000 people have already signed up. Get priority access with our unique promo. Log on to masterworks.art/believe. That's masterworks.art/believe, BLEAV. All right, guys, let's get to it. The afters, appropriately named by our own Bobby Doster. And we'll take your questions. I kind of wanted to get into best transfers, but I think I'd rather let's just take some questions from the chat if we can, and see what we got in here. All right, what do we got, guys? Let's. I'm gonna kind of get everybody going here and see what we got. All right, general thoughts on Marquette after seeing Chaka last night at UConn. Listen, I think he's done a hell of a job. He seems happy. That's the coolest part for Chaka. Like, I just felt like he was never really, you go to Texas and your AD leaves right away. I was at the Big 12 tournament 3 years ago, and we were addressing Shaka's future then. It was that long ago. 3 years, the dude's been dealing with this. I was at the Abilene Christian game. It was ugly. It was the perfect storm for him in a way, right? He gets fired, gets out of Texas, and he lands a better job for him and maybe a better job overall because they care about basketball, right?
I agree. I think it's a better fit. I've said this all along. No disrespect to Chris Beard down in Texas. The expectations of Texas, because they have money, they've never been this national championship program that created this expectations. And I think, you lose a great one in Rick Barnes and it's time to move for whatever it is. But they were 18 out of 19 years or whatever it was. He missed all but one tournament. And they just got bored with it and then begin to think that it's expected that we should be taking the next step. This isn't football, folks. I mean, this isn't. You don't even win it in football. I mean, it's just everything. They stay bigger in Texas, and I hate to sound this way because I always sound like I'm anti-Texas, and I'm not. Yeah. But the expectations there are so unrealistic to me at times. It's like, come on, like it's a better fit for him. He's just happier, but I think that you just get tired of not being able to live up to something that no one else has ever done there as well. And I think that
even the Longhorn Network has found.
Yes. Everything
right?
about
I
it.
don't even know where to
Everything
find
about
it.
it. Yes.
I don't even know.
Everything
Sweeney,
about it.
what number is can you find the Longhorn Network?
Which is why I think they
No.
ran to the SEC.
Yeah.
I will say this. I mean, we talked about Georgetown and Villanova as the best jobs in the Big East. Marquette's right there. I mean, first off, the coaches who've been there get better jobs or get, other high major jobs they want to leave. But the resources are really, really good there too. I mean, the money and, they play in an awesome arena. Like they have everything you need. The students are really engaged. The fan base is good. Like you have everything you need to be really successful. And like you said, Jeff, I mean, I don't know Shaka, but I mean, I'm sitting in press conference. He just looks kind of content. There was, you could just kind of see how it wore on him, just the way, his expressions over the last couple of years. And I think he's content. I think he has a very unique team in the fact that most teams' defense feeds off their offense, and their offense really feeds off how well they defend. And they're just so bought into what he's preaching that I think they'll be successful, even if, even when, shots don't fall. I mean, they've had a couple stretches this year where they've been unbelievable. They've a couple stretches where it's been a little bit shakier, but I just think that the way that they guard and how bought in and together they are will carry them across the finish line more times than not.
And UConn needed that game so badly.
100%.
Like they out-toughed them because it was one of those games where listen, the best part of the game, I'm not going to lie, was just watching Danny Hurley on the sideline. I hadn't seen him in 3 years. And I even said that to him after. I've known Danny since he was at St. Benedict's, early days, like not even good St. Benedict's, bad St. Benedict's. And I'm texting with Bobby Hurley during the game. And I said, listen, your elite level, your high is higher than Danny in terms of your entertainment value and your insanity. I said, but Danny's higher than you overall. He's more consistent than you. Like he flexed at one point. He did one of these at one. I mean, like it was so good that again, I could watch him all day. And listen, I don't know how coaching against him. I'm sure people are going crazy. Like the other coaches probably can't stand it, but he gets the crowd going. It's college. He is a college head coach.
I'll put it this way. My brother is the head manager for Sienna's women's basketball team. And his job basically is to be the hype man on the bench. Yeah. I mean, that he looks like Danny Hurley out there, except he can't trip the rest like Danny.
Yes.
Like he's running up and down. He's banging his head. It's just
tremendous.
It's a comedy show to watch.
All right. What else we got? We got RC, who are the craziest fans? Ooh. Was it Duke? Clearly, like I'm dealing with Arkansas fans today on Twitter. Like, and I go through like my craziest Twitter fan bases. Who is that fan base that was just like Duke had reason to be crazy, but like who is the one that wanted, like Texas Tech wants to be something, Arkansas wants to be something they haven't been in so long? Who's that fan base?
If we're going to say ACC play, I would say it probably was Clemson.
Yeah.
Like surprisingly, it was one of those places when you went in and when you came out of there, it was just different. It was just hard as hell to get out of there. You were blown away with the noise and what the student section was doing. And they were right at the bench, the stuff that was coming out of their mouths. I mean, it was it was underrated. You expected it from Duke because they called it the Cameron crazy and they get all the hype and all that. But Clemson was probably one of the more underrated environments.
Carter Elliott, our friend, whether Wake can win the ACC, and is the win tonight the reason RC is showing skin with the deep V-neck?
This is my summer league shirt, man. This is my. All right, Carter, you go to bed, man. I know your wife's calling you. You got to wake up and you got to work out in the morning. You know what? I think they can, but they can't beat Duke. I don't think they're just. No. I don't think they're built to beat Duke. Duke is the one team that matches their size and athleticism, and they have the size to put on the line just to kind of slow them down. They're the only team that I just can flat out say will give Wake trouble. Everyone else, I think Wake can beat everyone else.
Hey, Sweeney, I'm going to Texas Baylor this weekend.
Okay.
Can Texas beat Baylor in Waco?
I kind of think they can. I wouldn't bet on it, but I mean, I think Texas is turning the corner. And I tweeted it during the Texas Tech game, and it didn't feel like it because they're down by double digits in the second half. But their offense started to look like it had some semblance of a rhythm.
RC's calling a TO.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, I'm gonna let you finish.
And they put 80 on Kansas on Monday night. Like, I think it's real hard to win in Waco. I think, but Baylor's had some issues defending lately. I mean, since the first of the year, if you look on T rank, I know Goodman, I don't know if that's in your analytics.
I gotta get that. I gotta add that to my arsenal. T rank.
But you can kind of sort by date. If you go from January 1st on, Baylor's defense was like 46th in the country, which is, not bad, but it's not, it's not Scott Drew Baylor.
What was it before that? Was it like top? It was top 5.
They were top 10. Top 10, top 5. So they've regressed a little bit, and Texas has the athletes. If they make shots, I think they can hang. I don't know if they win it, but I think Texas is starting to turn a corner. They're guarding and they're playing with intensity, and their offense is starting to figure it out.
So you got them winning this week?
I'm not betting on them winning, but
okay.
Goodman asked if they could win. I think they could absolutely win that game.
RC doesn't. He's not buying that. I'm not either. Now, the one thing I'll say more than anything about that Texas Tech game is that I wasn't sure they were tough enough mentally to even stay in that game. I thought they might get blown out, like 20 plus and not being close the whole way. And it started ugly, but they kind of fought back. They showed me something. Yeah.
But that game was ridiculous. I know you were there, but that atmosphere has there been a better one this year? Like, that was ridiculous.
RC, there hasn't been a better one. There hasn't been a better one, maybe in certainly 5 years for me.
That was
5
crazy.
years. And I've been I try to cherry pick the best ones. I'm at them for the most part. The hatred, that was the difference in that.
Yes.
One. It was the hatred. All right. Is Wisconsin going to sneak onto the 1 line? Now, if you ask somebody like me, I would say they absolutely should, looking at their resume. Sweeney, tell me why they're not going to be considered for the 1 line. Because I don't understand that part of it. Just because they don't win games by enough points and their efficiency isn't good enough, or can they still get on the 1 line?
Well, we can shout out the Fielding the 68 on this network. Great bracketology show. They're better at this than I am. But Lucas Harkins, one of our rotating panel here, he tells me, he looks at the numbers, says every year, if you're not among the truly elite teams in the net and in KenPom, you're not getting a 1 seed, and you're probably not getting a 2 seed. And I think Wisconsin's resume reminds me a fair amount of Oklahoma State's last year, where they had just all these great wins, but it just didn't move the needle for the metrics. And I think Wisconsin's going to wind up probably a 3 seed. Maybe they get that last 2 seed. Yeah. Look, we get 2 weeks until or a week and a half until the top 16 reveal. I'll answer that 100% confirm whether Wisconsin has a chance to the 1 seed after that. But I don't think they deserve a 1 seed, but right. I think they deserve a 2, right? I think they deserve a 2.
But we're saying a 2, like assuming they're going to finish over Purdue. I mean, where they're going to finish with Purdue, with Illinois. I mean, where do they finish to get a 2 seed?
I think second. Probably they have to get to second.
They have to finish second in the Big Ten. Okay, in Big Ten. I agree. They have to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if the Big Ten's going to get 3 of the top 8 teams. I don't see that happening. No. Wisconsin to be a 3,
and Illinois is not a 2 seed. Illinois is a 3 or 4, I think.
But can they move up?
But they can though. That's what we're saying. Right. Like but they're in position that they can finish first in the Big Ten.
That's true.
All right, who's your if you got to bet your paycheck, and I know Sweeney, you just got a huge raise recently. SI, they gave everybody raises over there, RC. So Sweeney is spending money like it's
okay.
Like
I'm already taking everybody out to the Final Four. So
there you go.
Taking everybody to the Final Four. He just went to Colorado, Wyoming. I mean, he is drinking out in Fort Collins. I heard he was tearing it up out there. But if your paycheck is on the line, who are you taking to win the whole thing right now?
Gonzaga.
Yeah,
I haven't wavered on that. I just think that what happened in them last year, I think that'll be a motivating force and a focus come tournament time.
If I had to bet one, I think it has to be Gonzaga. I mean, they're too talented. The front court talent. I think Chet's turning a corner. I think he'll be. I think you'll see a different Chet in March and April than you saw in November, right? I mean, because that Chet didn't dominate the game, right? And now he's figuring out
timid. He was timid at times.
I think he has figured out the way he needs to play. I think these games have been the best thing for him in the WCC. Yeah. And again, it's a different level. It's a different level of physicality that he hasn't dealt with. But I think he changes things for them. And I still think Andrew Nembhard can be one of the best, if not the best point guard in the country when he plays at his best.
And we were talking about him in that respect early in the season, right? In some of those non-conference games, we were all saying like, all right, there's not any great point guards. I'll take Nembhard because he knows how to run a team. And at that point, he was making shots from three. It's out of sight, out of mind a little bit. And then obviously everybody comes at you with when you pick Gonzaga, well, they don't play anybody. They did get to 2 championship games in the last 5 years. Like, that's pretty damn hard to do. I don't care what league you're coming out of. Baylor, yes, they were the better team last year. I would say to me, and it's hard for me, I would agree with you guys on Gonzaga, but man, Kentucky's creeping up there for me. They're making me think about choosing Gonzaga right now.
The only argument I have against Kentucky is they are foul trouble. They are Oscar Tshiebwe foul trouble away from going out against somebody in the second round of the tournament. I mean, I think that like that can be. Yeah. I think Gonzaga has more versatility in pieces that we're questioning the physicality of Chet. But guess what? Timmy's going to take that guy. So he doesn't have to deal with that. And he comes in as a secondary defender. Yeah, they got to worry about him, which is how you going to match up with that. And so that's the only knock I have on Kentucky is can they get away with, will Willard turn the ball over? Which tie we're going to get? Yeah. There's a lot more question marks. I feel a lot more certain about Gonzaga than I do Kentucky in that manner. But I do think Kentucky can beat anybody. But I had to bet the house. If I had to bet Sweeney's money, I'm gonna go with.
Listen, we're all gonna spend Sweeney's money in New Orleans.
Yeah, we got to spend that money.
We are all gonna spend it. I feel bad for you, Sweeney, because you are just gonna get crushed in New Orleans because everybody thinks you're making like 6 figures, like no problem right now, and it's gonna be a rough night for you. We're gonna hit you pretty hard.
Open an account up at the bar. We got you.
That's right. All right. Let's do 3 cheers. We'll start with Sweeney. He's got I don't know what do you got? What do you got tonight?
Cheers to the Mountain West. Cheers to Colorado State, and cheers to David Roddy. I was out there a couple days over the weekend, and I mean, first off, great atmosphere in Wyoming. I'm not sure I'm ever going to go to Laramie again, but I'm glad I did. It was great to see that battle against a really good Boise team, and then Colorado State packing it at Moby. I mean, that was a really fun atmosphere. Everybody packed in orange and amazing game. I mean, rallying back to San Diego State to take the lead, and then David Roddy with the clutch shot. And obviously David Roddy, I wrote a feature on him. You can check it out over at SI, published today. But just, I mean, and Goodman, you told me this, you had kind of talked to him, met the kid a little bit.
He's awesome.
Just, I mean, when you think of who is the ideal college athlete, David Roddy, man, unbelievable kid.
He's so honest.
Yeah. So honest.
Everything.
Was involved in all these clubs in high school about equity and inclusion, and is involved in the same things at Colorado State. And, he's a leader. He plays all 5 positions. He doesn't care who gets the credit. He comes in, and it was just, he comes in the game, he after hitting a buzzer beater to win the game and storming the court. And he's like, I'm just happy. I'm just happy for this atmosphere. I'm happy for the school. It's all about the school. It's not about him. And I just love that kid. So shout out to them, and shout out to the people of Fort Collins and Lucky Joe's for showing me a good time afterwards. So
yeah, David Roddy, one of the
outstanding,
just truly underrated players that you wish more people would get a chance to see. RC, who you got tonight?
You know what? I'm going to go home on this one. I'm going to go to Steve Forbes and Wake Forest. I have, as an alum, they're 20-5.
Yep.
It's happened a hell of a lot faster. And I know the resume isn't the best against non-conference and those things, but nonetheless, they are playing their way into the tournament. And at 20-5, kudos to him as an alum. It's been fun to watch. I'm these guys' biggest fan, and I couldn't be prouder of him as an alum to get that thing going as quickly as he did to a great guy.
Amazing.
Big force.
No, amazing. Listen, you just better hope you got enough money that you can keep him at this point, because, man, he's doing well enough that some other schools are going to go after him.
Yeah.
All right, my cheers is to a team that ended a 169 game conference winning streak. And it is the Villanova Wildcats women's team who beat the UConn women. The UConn women have won 169 consecutive conference games. That is insane. Complete insanity. So congrats, Villanova women's team. That is one hell of an accomplishment. So cheers. All right, there you have it. Appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. Field of 68 After Dark. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you watch us every night on SiriusXM, ESPN Radio, channel 84. And thanks to RC, Sweeney,